Welcome back. You're watching France 24. Time now for a business news update. For that, I'm joined by business editor Matthew Warren. Matthew, we've been talking about this mammoth press conference that François Hollande gave yesterday, and the economy was really top of his agenda on that, wasn't it?
That's right. It certainly was a long press conference, and a big chunk of it was economy, to the extent that François Hollande started to keep asking for, can we talk about international issues now? But he said he was going on the offensive on the economy because he's been criticised perhaps for not having a clear enough strategy. That's as the country slips back into recession, unemployment at a 16-year high as well. So what were the specific proposals made by the president? Kate Moody has more.
France back in recession and its president back on the offensive. François Hollande said to boost the French economy, he has to start with Europe as a whole.
My duty is to bring Europe out of its lethargy.
He called for an independent government for the 17-member Eurozone, which would have its own president, budget, and the right to borrow and issue debt. He also reaffirmed his focus on jobs. A record 3.2 million French people are unemployed, and Hollande vowed to lower that number by the end of the year. Those who are working may have to do so for longer. Hollande admitted that France's long-protected pension system is unsustainable. And though his Socialist Party opposed a plan 3 years ago to raise the retirement age from 60 to 62, he conceded that it may need to happen.
As long as we're living longer, sometimes much longer, we'll have to work a bit longer as well.
Looking ahead, he said Prime Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault would present a 10-year investment plan in June to focus on clean energy, public health, digital technology, and transport and infrastructure. It's a plan he hopes will go a long way to lifting France out of its slump, and perhaps his own approval ratings, too.
And another point from François Hollande's speech there. Some of the wealthiest people in France got a special thank you, didn't they?
Yes, he had a special message for the wealthiest, saying he wanted to salute their efforts because we've asked a lot of them, perhaps talking about this 75% tax they wanted to put on, but it got struck down. But in fact, some of the wealthiest, at least those who run big French companies, have seen their incomes drop a little bit. This is a survey of the bosses in the CAC 40 index by Les Echos, the financial daily here in France, and it says that their average salary in 2012 was 2.3 million euros. Not bad, but as I said, down 4% on a year earlier. But in terms of the best paid, it's the head of the Publicis advertising agency, Maurice Levy, who comes in top, just under 5 million euros there. And then the heads of L'Oréal and LVMH, just under 4 million euros, as you can see.
Not bad, really, is it, for a payslip? But
bad.
Anyway, moving on. How are the markets looking?
Yes, let's take a look at the Asian markets. They're having a pretty good end to the week. As you can see there, they're all moving in an upwards direction. Not often we see both the Nikkei and the Kospi moving together. They usually move in opposite directions. We'll keep an eye on that.
Okay, now we're going to look at some of the day's company news and some fresh worries for Boeing. A new problem has emerged on its 787 Dreamliner. Nippon Airways said the problem was minor and involved discolouring on electrical panel. It wasn't related to the earlier battery problem that grounded the entire fleet for several months.
And working conditions at one of Apple's biggest suppliers are improving. Foxconn has been criticised after a number of employee suicides in recent years, where a labour group hired by Apple says that conditions have got better, but it said employees are still working too much overtime.
Profits plunged at the computer maker Dell. They were shut down 80% in the last quarter. This drop in PC use is really hurting the company. Michael Dell is currently trying to buy back the company he founded, but he has a fight on his hands. The investor Carl Icahn has gone up against him with a rival bid. Now, while François Hollande was giving his press conference on Thursday, another piece of news across Paris also grabbed the headlines, Matthew.
That's right. David Beckham, who currently plays here in Paris at the club PSG, has said that he is retiring. Now, his pulling power, of course, is legendary. After he left LA Galaxy, in fact, average attendance at matches there dropped by 2,000 per game. And it's brands as well that have benefited from the Beckham magic, as Rochelle Ferguson reports.
After a career spanning 2 decades, he's finally hanging up his boots. Former England captain David Beckham announced on Thursday he's to retire from football following a brief stint at the French club Paris Saint-Germain. The move has shocked fans who idolise the player.
Beckham, he was a great player. I mean, he was one of the best. He's one of the highest paid soccer players, so that's what I know about him. He was a big idol of mine when I was younger. I used to play soccer.
Blessed with good looks and footballing talent, Beckham has long since been a cash magnet. In 2003, when he left for Real Madrid, he was already on over €100,000 a week. The same year, he signed a lifetime deal with Adidas, reputedly worth nearly €120 million. And by 2012, the German firm's sales on Beckham shirts hit almost €12 million. But sports sponsorship deals are just the tip of the iceberg for Becks. Having worked in the past with Pepsi, Vodafone and the watch manufacturer Breitling, Becks went from strength to strength as a global brand with extensive commercial interests. A study by the British newspaper The Sunday Times revealed last month that Beckham's estimated fortune is nearly €200 million. In 2012, he was found to be the highest paid player on the planet, netting almost €36 million that year alone. With his career winding down, Beckham has been considering a range of deals, including becoming ambassador for sport in China and encouraging people to play sports in conjunction with the British company BSkyB.
David Beckham may be leaving France, but it seems, doesn't it, some of the reports of other wealthy people fleeing from France may have been exaggerated.
That's right, Catherine. You remember that since François Hollande has come to power, we've heard all of these anecdotal reports from estate agents, financial advisors saying they're getting all these calls, people wanting to leave, move to Belgium, move to the UK as well, for example. Well, we're now getting a few trickly bits of data out of the finance ministry, which suggests perhaps it's not happening as much as we thought, but there were some pretty famous departures, at least from France. That included Gérard Depardieu, who we can see there, who took a house in Belgium. Then there was that whole taking a Russian passport as well. But let's take a look at some of these clues that we're getting from the finance ministry. Now, there are no official figures yet for the last year, but this is in terms of those numbers of people who pay this exit tax. Now, that's a tax you pay if you're selling certain investments once you've moved abroad, so it tends to be wealthy people. The figures there, as you can see, between 2011 and 2012, when François Hollande came to power, no difference. In fact, even down slightly. Another figure that people look at is, well, how many children are being enrolled in French schools abroad? Because, of course, these people move abroad. They want their children to have a French education. Well, since in the last year, that was the figure, 118,000. Now, it's gone up 18% since 2008, but that's not seen as a huge amount, and Nicolas Sarkozy was in power for most of that period. There's also been no noticeable rise in the number of people registering at the French embassies in other countries as well. So, of course, these figures are very general, and we'll have to wait to see official figures on the very wealthy, what's happened with them. But a lot of people saying that perhaps this is starting to indicate that there's been no big flood,
no mass
big rush
exodus after
for the
all.
exits after all.
I think it's the food and wine keeping them here.
Exactly. They've decided there are good reasons to stay.
All right. Thanks very much indeed. Matthew Warren there with the business news here on France 24.